Welcome back. Outside Minds podcast. Because you've already seen too much, bro.
They only added it so it could be like a ritual.
They're saying there's these, the end of times, right? There's all these signs.
Do you think we would know? Like, do you think the general public would know this game?
Take a picture for $5. You have a purpose in life, and if you don't fulfill it, you will come back until you fulfill it.
Welcome back to another episode of the Outside Minds podcast. I'm your host and creator, CeeLo Free. This is the other host and creator,
.420.
And we are going to talk about somebody known as the sleeping prophet today. His name is Edgar Cayce. If you guys know anything about Edgar Cayce, leave some stuff in the comments. We might miss some stuff, but stick around. We got a bunch of information for you. What do you know about Edgar Cayce, bro?
The basic facts. He was born in like the late 1800s, right? And as a kid, he was, I guess his parents kind of noticed he had these things that kind of made him special, right?
Yeah. He was known to read the Akashic Records. We need to get someone on and just talk about that and just break it down.
Yeah.
But the Akashic Records are basically a field of energy that you can tap into that holds all the information of a person and everybody on Earth and everybody in infinity. It holds thoughts, it holds memories, it holds past lives, it holds future possible lives and all that kind of stuff. So that's primarily where he was reading from as a medium or a psychic, some might say. And he lived in Kentucky, bro. Did you know that?
Yeah, and he didn't claim himself to be a psychic or anything. He was never self-claimed. Like that's what people believed of him, And he was he wasn't a pastor, right? But he was he was one of the leaders of a church, though.
Oh, he was a leader of a church?
He got charged with heresy, bro.
What?
Yeah.
Fucking 1877 fucking Kentucky for you, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Witchcraft.
What is there to do in 1877 Kentucky? Fucking start farming when you're 8?
And religion was super heavy, I'm sure. Church was like,
Well, what they would say that instead of doing like the regular stuff that kids would do, he liked to go out into the forest and read the Bible.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
He read that thing like how many times?
Well, I don't know how many times he read the Bible.
He read it like 13 times or something.
I just know that when he would go into the forest to read the Bible, he would go hang out with the little folk, which basically sounds like he was like hanging out with fairies and stuff.
Tapping into another dimension.
I was going to say that's in my notes. He was spiritually attuned already at a young age.
Because he was trying to combine spirituality with the physical, because that's what he realized earlier. Okay. Like he realized that at his young age, so that's why he was trying to teach like healing with that stuff.
And because he was Christianity based too, he was probably trying to bridge Eastern spirituality with Western spirituality.
Yeah, and that also broke him because he was, like I say, he wasn't a pastor, but he was like a deacon or something, a big dog in the church.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So was his dad religious, do you think?
I don't know. I'm assuming so.
There's a lot of Paul Bunyan stories about him. You know what I'm saying? We heard that story about how he first got his powers or whatever. I guess like the school called and his dad was like, or the school was like,
you're late behind on the project.
Yeah, he was late on his grade. He was doing bad on grades, and then his dad beat him. And then it was a bunch of times his dad would beat him, but this particular time his dad beat him. He laid down and he had a ringing in his ears.
Well, and he asked his dad, "Can I take a nap?" or whatever. This was the story.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He said, "Can I take a nap?" He said, "Yeah, you have 5 minutes or whatever."
What?
Yeah, supposedly he took a nap on the book. And then, when he woke up, you could say the rest.
You have 5 minutes. I know this is the story
strict.
that I heard.
He was real strict.
This is the story that I heard. I heard that the school called. They said he's not getting good grades. His dad gave him like a test or something like that, and he failed the test. Beat him him till his head was ringing. He went down, and then a voice came to him and was like, "Go get your school book, go to sleep on that." And then he did that, and when he woke up in the morning, he had the full knowledge of all the book, and that's how he would study for tests and stuff like that.
This goes to a point I was going to bring up, though. It's kind of like a telephone, right? You would play it in school. I would tell the story. It goes in a circle of 10 people. It's a different story by the end, because this is the late 1800s, right? And like psychics, mediums. This was shunned
I know what you mean.
This is shunned upon, so it was kind of in the secret.
Yeah,
you
he
know
kind of
what I mean?
does have like those Jesus stories about him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The crazy part about it is when you read the different gospels, I guess, like Luke, Matthew, and all that, when they tell about the story of Jesus, like they'll tell like the same stories, but it'll be like kind of different.
Yep.
So I think it's kind of like the same thing. Like you're getting kind of like the information, but it's kind of getting like passed down in different ways. People add or subtract details and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? But he had about I think 14,000 or more recorded predictions or readings or something like that.
Readings, yeah.
Yeah, so that was crazy. Kid from Kentucky, he would. I'm still tripping out about how he would play in the forest with fairies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
that's wild, bro.
What if your little brother came and he was like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna go hang out in the forest, read my Bible with the fairy people."
I'd be like, "Did you get in my stash, bro?"
Oh, maybe he was shrooming. Maybe he was just shrooming all the time.
He was
bro.
just eating mushrooms in
Do
the
they
forest.
have mushrooms in Kentucky?
I'm sure.
He's just shroomed out, not
There's
telling
over-
anybody, bro.
over-
What if he's a time traveler, bro?
There's like over 150 or maybe even more species of psychedelic mushrooms, bro.
Damn. The Edgar Cayce shroom.
That's crazy.
We should name a weed strain Edgar Cayce. The outside of mine
And
is
it
Edgar
would,
Cayce.
it would make people
Sativa.
research it and kind of, right? Because they wouldn't know who that is. That'd be
Hey,
pretty
we
cool.
might have to do that. You
That'd
know
be
what I'm
pretty
saying? We
cool.
might have to do that. It just also, so I think there's something to putting a victim of abuse through trauma and them getting supernatural abilities, because you see it in Matilda. You saw it in Stranger Things, and we know Stranger Things was based on the Montauk Project. We were actually doing that. They're putting children through traumatic situations and torture in order for them to exhibit supernatural abilities. Same thing happened with him.
Well, it's like
His dad beat him down, and then he becomes a psychic.
It goes to the trauma part. Goes into like these superheroes, right? They all lose their parents,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So there's that trauma underlining, and these people who do these Montauk projects, they look for those kids that don't have parents, because that's already a primer for the trauma.
Oh, I didn't think about
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Dang. That's probably what the Gifted program is about,
Yeah,
bro.
yeah.
Because they're trying to find these kids that are just like, have these supernatural abilities, and maybe that's one of the precursors if they've been exposed to trauma at a young age.
I went to Lomita Magnet. That's a magnet school.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
if you look up a magnet school, there's special programs to seek out these kids.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy.
Yeah, that is insane. Yeah, there's a lady on TikTok that said she was like a spy, she was a psychic for the Navy, and basically it all started when they tested her for special abilities in the GATE program, and then like eventually she ended up being like a fucking psychic for the Navy. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's wild.
What the fuck? Okay, so some of his accurate predictions, Edgar Cayce accurate predictions. In 1925, he predicted the 1929 stock market crash.
Yeah. I seen that, and there's people that are like, there was plenty of people that predicted it, but the counter to that is, if so many people predicted it, how come? How come it crashed?
Not only that, but it's like, okay, that's 1 out of 14,000. Explain the 14,000 other ones.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Also, he predicted a lot of things about World War II, right? He predicted the rise of Hitler. He predicted America joining the war. He also predicted Barack Obama.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he
I didn't hear
predicted
that
the
one.
44th president was going to be black. Let's see what else
That's
we got.
funny.
He predicted his own death
What?
3 days in advance.
Oh yeah. But to be fair, he was very, very sick the 2 weeks leading up to that.
Okay.
So he probably knew.
He was probably saying that shit like every day.
He's like, I'm gonna die, one of
in
these
3 days.
Yeah.
Like, Edgar, you've been saying that shit for 2 weeks, dog. What the fuck?
So it's like,
We
yeah,
done picked out caskets and everything.
it's crazy because he did get the day right, but like he was like gravely ill leading up to that. So.
Damn. We are back. Had a few technical difficulties, but we're gonna bring ChatGPT on. As he knows, we're gonna talk about Edgar Cayce. ChatGPT, can you tell us a little bit about Edgar Cayce's readings on Atlantis and also his prediction on the Bimini Road?
Sure. Edgar Cayce, often called the Sleeping Prophet, conducted readings on a variety of topics, including Atlantis. He described Atlantis as an advanced civilization that existed thousands of years ago, known for its technological advancements and spiritual knowledge. According to Cayce, the people of Atlantis misused their power, leading to the civilization's eventual destruction by natural disasters. As for the Bimini Road, Cayce predicted that remnants of Atlantis would be found in the form of structures underwater near Bimini Island in the Bahamas. In the 1960s, divers discovered a stone formation near Bimini, which some believe could be linked to Cayce's predictions about Atlantis. However, the scientific community remains skeptical about the connection between the Bimini Road and Atlantis.
What did he say about Egyptians being reincarnations of Atlanteans?
Edgar Cayce often spoke about connections between ancient civilizations. He suggested that some of the Egyptians were reincarnations of Atlanteans. According to Cayce, after the fall of Atlantis, some Atlanteans migrated to other parts of the world, including Egypt. Cayce believed that the spiritual and technological knowledge from Atlantis influenced the development of Egyptian civilization. He saw the Egyptians as continuing the legacy of the Atlanteans, particularly in their spiritual practices and understanding of the mysteries of life. However, these ideas are part of Cayce's psychic readings and are not universally accepted by historians or archaeologists.
Can you talk about how he said there was a Hall of Records and that the Sphinx was the keeper of the Hall of Records, as well as the pyramid being some kind of monument to initiation?
Of course, Edgar Cayce spoke about the existence of a Hall of Records associated with ancient Atlantis. According to Cayce, this Hall of Records was a repository of the knowledge and history of Atlantis, and it was said to be hidden beneath the Sphinx in Egypt. Cayce suggested that the Sphinx itself was a guardian of this Hall of Records, protecting its secrets until the right time for their revelation. He believed that this hidden knowledge could provide valuable insights into human history, spirituality, and our connection to the cosmos. Regarding the pyramids, Cayce described them as monuments to initiation and spiritual evolution. He saw the Great Pyramid as a place where initiates underwent spiritual training and transformation, aligning with ancient mysteries and esoteric teachings. This perspective reflects Cayce's view of the pyramids as not just tombs, but sacred spaces for spiritual awakening and enlightenment. These ideas are based on Cayce's psychic readings and are part of his unique interpretation of ancient history.
Nice, nice. I also want you to talk about the Essenes. I think the Essenes were some kind of secret society back in the day that not a lot of people had information about until the Dead Sea Scrolls came out. But didn't he make some predictions about them as well?
Absolutely. The Essenes were an ancient Jewish sect, often associated with the production of the Dead Sea Scrolls. They were known for their ascetic lifestyle, emphasis on purity and communal living. Edgar Cayce mentioned the Essenes in his readings, often highlighting their spiritual practices and their connection to esoteric knowledge. Cayce believed that the Essenes had a deep understanding of spiritual laws and that they practiced a form of healing and spiritual insight that was ahead of its time. Cayce saw the Essenes as a group that preserved ancient wisdom and spiritual teachings, which were essential for the spiritual evolution of humanity. He believed that their practices and teachings could offer insights into higher consciousness and spiritual awakening. These ideas reflect Cayce's interpretation of the Essenes as a spiritual society with deep connections to the mysteries of life and the universe.
Wow. So I want you to talk a little bit about how he was getting these readings, because as far as I know that he was reading the Akashic Records, and I know that he was getting into a trance-like state in order to access this information. Can you talk about that?
Another thing before that, while he was in these trances, he would always start with the same sentences, "We see the body." So it wasn't him talking. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Edgar Cayce entered a trance-like state to provide his readings. While in this state, he would often begin with the phrase, "We see the body," to indicate that he was not speaking as himself, but rather accessing information from a higher source. Cayce believed he was tapping into the Akashic Records, which are said to be a compendium of all universal events, thoughts, words, and actions. In this trance state, Cayce could access this vast repository of knowledge to provide insights and answers to questions posed to him. Cayce's readings covered a wide range of topics, from health and healing to spiritual guidance and historical insights. His ability to provide detailed and often accurate information while in a trance is what made his readings so remarkable and intriguing to many people.
And while he was in the trance, when he got out of the trance, he had no recollection of what he said, right?
That's correct. When Edgar Cayce came out of his trance state, he typically had no recollection of the information he had provided during the reading. This phenomenon is a common aspect of trance states where the individual accessing information is not consciously aware of what is being said or done. Cayce's wife, Gertrude, often acted as his interpreter and would record the readings. He would later review these records, and they would be transcribed and analyzed by others. This lack of recollection further contributed to the mystique surrounding Cayce's abilities and the belief that he was accessing a higher source of knowledge beyond his own conscious mind.
Wow, so it sounds like when he was in a trance-like state and he wasn't aware of what he was saying when he came out of the trance, it kind of sounds like he was detached from his ego, which is something that happens when you do psychedelics. And a lot of people, like I think it was Paul Stamets, they have encountered premonitions and things like that while in psychedelic states. Can you talk about that connection there?
Certainly. The experience of being detached from the ego and accessing information beyond ordinary consciousness is something reported in various altered states of consciousness, whether through meditation, trance states, or the use of psychedelics. In these states, individuals often report experiences of heightened awareness, a sense of interconnectedness, and access to information that feels beyond their ordinary knowledge. Edgar Cayce's trance readings share similarities with these altered states, as he accessed information that seemed to come from a source beyond his conscious mind. This detachment from the ego can allow for a more expansive perception and an openness to insights that aren't constrained by everyday thought patterns. Psychedelics, like certain plant medicines, have been known to facilitate experiences where individuals feel a dissolution of the ego, leading for access to deeper layers of consciousness. Similar to Cayce's trance states, some individuals report having profound insights, premonitions, or a heightened sense of knowing during these experiences. While the mechanisms behind these states are still being studied, the common thread is the ability to access information or insights that transcend ordinary conscious thought. Whether through Cayce's trance readings or psychedelic experiences, many people report transformative experiences that can lead to a deeper understanding of themselves and the universe.
Wow. So I want to take the shift to another prediction he had that some people talk about nowadays, which is a pole shift. He predicted that there's going to be a 30-degree pole shift. Can you talk about some of the telltale signs he said to look out for, as well as some of the damage that's going to happen when this supposed pole shift happens?
Certainly. Edgar Cayce did make references to a polar shift in his readings. He suggested that there could be a significant geological event involving a shift in the Earth's poles, which he described as a 30-degree displacement. According to Cayce, this shift would result in significant changes to the Earth's climate, geography, and even the way we experience time and space. Cayce indicated that signs of this potential polar shift would include unusual weather patterns, increased seismic activity, and changes in ocean currents. He suggested that these signs would be indicators that such a shift was imminent. As for the potential consequences, Cayce warned that a polar shift could lead to widespread natural disasters, such as earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanic eruptions. He also mentioned that there would be significant climate changes, with some areas becoming uninhabitable and others experiencing new growth and revitalization. It's important to note that while Cayce's predictions have intrigued many, they are based on his unique interpretations and psychic readings.
I think he said people who live near the coastlines have 90 days to evacuate. Can you talk about that?
But you've hit the daily limit for advanced course.
So yeah, I guess we hit our daily limit. Maybe we'll start paying for ChatGPT. Let us know.
Yeah.
But
donate. No, I'm just kidding.
They were saying that half of Asia is going to be underwater. India's gonna have to go up to the Himalayas. They said if you live near coastlines, you're gonna have 90 days to evacuate. What do you think about that, bro?
Yeah, I mean, I live next to a place called Sunken City, bro. it literally used to be a roadway. It was never really a city, but it used to have a roadway, and now it's just all crumbling. And they say even my pad won't be there in the next probably 40, 50 years.
How are we gonna evacuate in this traffic, bro?
Get a dirt bike, bro. Dirt bike's the only way, honestly.
50% of the people are still gonna be on the way to work to Starbucks.
Yeah, he was kind of talking about quantum physics before there was a big thing, and now CERN, is doing this big stuff.
Damn, I wanted to ask ChatGPT about what he was saying about time and space.
Yeah,
because
when he mentioned that, I was like, oh yeah, I was hearing something about like he was pretty much talking about quantum physics before it was quantum physics.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
It was part of one of his predictions
saying
too.
that there's probably going to be a consciousness shift too.
Yeah. He did say that. That was one of his predictions too.
Damn.
Remember, this is a real religious guy.
Yeah.
Super religious.
Yeah. He liked to go study the Bible.
Yeah.
In the forest.
Yeah, I'm telling you,
the fairies.
He was big in the church. He got charged with heresy, bro. You don't get charged with heresy unless you're involved in the church like that. You know what I mean? But ultimately, the charges were dropped.
What is heresy, bro?
It's going against the church, like their beliefs and teachings.
It's kind of like treason, but
it's
religion.
like he's doing witchcraft. You know what I mean?
Oh.
He's doing magic, mystical stuff. That's against church.
Yeah, that's true. Divination.
Yeah, even though
divination is a sin.
Jesus himself was a mystic. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, but there could only be one to them.
Yeah. The crucifix is an esoteric symbol. Mm-hmm. We just know the exoteric meaning.
Yep.
That's crazy. Yeah, I probably wouldn't have been reading the Bible in the woods.
No, that's insane.
1800s Kentucky.
I mean, what else do you have to do,
I probably would have
been
fishing.
Oh, yeah. I guess, but like, what else do you have to do out there during that time? You know what I mean? Reading.
His dad was beating his fucking ass though.
Yeah, and
all the time. That wasn't just that one day.
That means I wouldn't be at home. I'd be out reading, so I make sure when I get home I know this shit, and he's not gonna beat my ass. Like what? Like I need to study this bitch because I'm gonna get my ass beat when I get home.
I'm about to be reading from the book of fucking Philippians when he's fucking whooping my ass next time and shit.
His kind of when he got all that knowledge and sleeping on the book, it kind of reminds me of Aleister Crowley when he channeled Awas and wrote the Liber Oz book in one night. Because it was
one night.
It wasn't him writing it. He channeled somebody. It's his claim. Yeah, in like one night.
Do you think he was on the opium yet?
He was for sure on peyote and
let's go
all that good stuff. He was doing psychedelics for sure.
Yeah. He's very interesting to study. I know he did evil shit.
He did do very
it's not
bad
like we're fans,
stuff.
guys.
No, I'm intrigued.
But we like to read about that
I'm
shit,
intrigued.
You know? Edgar Cayce, what do you guys think? Did we miss anything? I know we missed a bunch of shit.
We missed a lot, you know?
You know, one thing I heard about him was that he did a bunch of accurate readings, but I think there was only one or two readings that were inaccurate. And the one that I know of was that he would have a picture and the name, and he would read that person's energy or whatever, or what was sick with them or whatever he was reading or whatever. One person, he gave all this accurate information and it was wrong, but he actually gave accurate information for that person's twin.
Did you hear what happened about his son?
No, what happened to his son?
All right, so his son was sick, right? Mm-hmm. And he went into a trance, and what he said was he cannot be saved. And so he had to live with that. And then supposedly his wife got sick, and he didn't want to go into a trance, but then he did and ultimately saved her.
Involuntarily went into a trance?
Well, no. He didn't want to, but then he ended up doing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What if that guy was like your uncle?
Be wild.
And he's like, don't tell me anything, bro. I'm good. I'm good. I want to find out for myself.
He opened up his holistic hospital, but of course, you know, big pharma's not going to let that happen.
They had to shut that down,
yep.
man. Yeah, because he died, I think, in like 1945, which is like right around World War II, I think. That was right before the end or beginning of World. I don't know. I don't really know history that good.
Yep.
Anyways, Outside Minds Podcast, Outsiders, thank you for joining us. This has been a great informational episode, fun episode about the sleeping prophet. The sleeping prophet, Edgar Cayce.
Yep.
You know what it is. This is your host and creator, Stilo Free. This is the other host and creator,
.420.
Like, comment, subscribe, follow us on TikTok.
All that.
Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter, even though we don't really post on there. And tell your friends about us. Tell your aunt, tell your dad, tell your ex-girlfriend too if you still
tell
talk
your
to
mama.
her. Yeah. We out.
Peace.
Peace.